All right, guys, in this video, we are going to talk about parametric functions. This is section 1.5, and this section covers parametric and inverse functions, but this video is going to stick with parametric. In the next video, we will do inverse functions. So make sure that you stick around for that one if you missed class or you just need to rewatch it. This part A, parametric, part B will be inverse. All right. So parametric functions are talking about functions where you will calculate, you'll find your x and your y coordinates by plugging values in for these little equations you're going to see, okay? Now, these are typically used when you are representing things happening over time. So that's why they call this parameter is listed out as t, because usually it's over a certain amount of time. And so what you'll see is that you can get your x coordinate. It is in terms of t, or you can get your y coordinate in terms of t. It is possible for us to write our equations similar to how we have done them in the past, where you directly relate x and y. That is called eliminating the parameter, and we will do that in our example on part B, okay? But to start off with, we are going to begin with part A, where they said that we are going to find the points that are determined by these t values, okay? So we're going to make ourselves a little table. And so this is part A, right? We're going to have values for t. Let's see, I'm going to need several. We're going to have, and then we're going to plug in values. We need to figure out what the x's are going to be by using that equation, t plus 1. We also are going to have to figure out what our y values are by using that equation for y, t squared plus 2t. And then let's just round it out and make it nice and pretty. They're asking us to find the coordinates, so we might as well write them out nicely. So anyways, we're going to just kind of fill out this little table here of values. So this is a little bit different than normal functions where you get to pick the numbers to plug in. Here they are telling you the t's that you should be plugging in. They're telling you the parameters. So we are going to plug those values in that they told us. They said that t for -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. I will need one more spot. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is plug each of these t values into their respective functions or equations to get the x coordinates and then to get the y coordinates. So I'm going to start with getting my x's, okay? In order to get these x's, we are going to plug the equations into that, or plug the t values into the equation t plus 1. So if I plug in a -3 going in as t, -3 plus 1 is -2. If you plug in a -2, -2 plus 1 is a -1. Plug in a -1, you get 0. Plug in 0, you get 1. Plug in 1, you get 2. Plug in 2, you get 3. Plug in 3, you get 4. Okay? So again, I'm plugging them in to that equation for x. Then I'm going to do the exact same thing for y. I'm going to plug these pink numbers, the t ones, into the t value for y. If you plug in a -3, this is a little harder to do in your head, but you can totally do it. Plug in a -3. -3 squared is 9. Okay. Then we're going to add 2 times a -3. That's -6. 9 plus a -6 is 3. All right. If we plug in a -2, -2 squared is 4. Then we're going to add 2 times that -2. So you're adding a -4. 4 plus a -4 is 0. So again, I'm just following that pattern. I would like you guys to pause the video and practice plugging in for the rest of these y's now that we've got the hang of it. All right, plug the t's in and get the y coordinates, and then come back when you're ready to check them. All right, when we plugged in the -1, you should have got the value -1. When you plugged in a 0, you should have got 0. When you plugged in a 1, you should have got 3. You plugged in a 2, you should have got 8. And when you plugged in 3, you should have got 15. Okay? Which gives us the points. If we write these coordinates out, I want the x and the y, not the t anymore. The t is done. We dealt with them. So I'm going to give the xy coordinates. This one would be -2, 3. All right, here we had -1, 0, 0, -1, 1, 0, 2, 3, 3, 8, and 4, 15. All right, so right there we have all of the values, the points for that parametric function, okay, over those t values. Okay, so next thing, we're going to look at part B. We're going to do this thing called eliminating the parameter, and then we're going to tell, is this a function or not? So part B, I'll just work that right here. What they want us to do is they want us to use some algebra to get rid of the t values and write it as one direct equation from y to x or x to y. Okay, it doesn't really matter which way. So we have, remember those two equations that are up here? We're working with those. I have 2 steps for you. The first step is you're going to solve one equation for t. Okay, so that's your first step. Your second step is plug t into the other equation. Okay, so those are your 2 steps. Solve one of the equations for t, it does not matter which one, and then plug t into that other equation. Okay, so just start with whichever one looks simpler. I'm going to start with this one here. So I have x equals t plus 1. I think that one looks simpler. And we're going to solve that for t. So that just means subtract 1 on both sides. X minus 1 equals t. Then what we're going to do is we're going to plug that into the other equation. Remember, the other equation was y equals t squared plus 2t. All right, so we're going to take that t value we just found, which is x minus 1. Right, we're going to take this and plug it in everywhere I see a t. Okay. All right. Now I'm afraid my work's going to look a little squished here just because I can't write over here. It's kind of glossy, so it's going to be kind of small. But we're going to plug in this x minus 1 squared and then plus 2 times x minus 1. Okay? Remember, when you square this, you can't just square both terms and call it a day. You do have to FOIL it out. So this is x minus 1 times x minus 1. Then over here, 2 times x, you can go ahead and FOIL this. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times -1, -2. Right, we're going to FOIL this guy. First times first, x squared. Outside times outside. Inside times inside. Last times last. Then we still have the plus 2x minus 2. Last thing here, combine our like terms. We have an x squared, but then look at what happens with these x's here. It's pretty nice. We have a -x minus x, so that's a -2x. But over here, we're adding 2x. So those cancel out. Pretty nice. Then we just have 1 minus 2, which is a -1. And so my equation would be y equals x squared minus 1. The other part of question B asked, is y a function of x? Yes, y equals x squared minus 1. That's a function of x. And if you were to graph it, think about it, this looks like a parabola, which does pass the vertical line test. So we're going to say, yes, it is a function. Okay? All right. We still have one more part. So we need to go through and actually graph it. That is what part C says to do. Graph the relation. Now, guys, you can either graph it using these coordinate points you just found or by graphing this equation the same way we've always graphed parabolas. Regardless, I need a graph. Since these are already showing me the coordinate points, probably going to be easier to graph it by using those. So I'm going to zoom out here so you can see them. And I'm just going to draw my graph down here. Okay. You don't need to use all of the points either. You can just use some of them, and that's perfectly fine. I'm just going to get enough to see the picture of it. So I'm going to graph out to the -2 and then +2. I think that'll be enough. We have a point here at -2, +3. So about there. We have a point at -1, 0. We have one at 0, -1. Okay. And then at 1, 0. And then at 2, 3. And then what you see here is a parabola, right? Those are the points that we had from our parametric equation, right? But doesn't that also match what we know this graph should look like? A quadratic that was moved down 1 unit, right? So that's what we have, and that was indeed a function. That was part C. I didn't label it. There you go. Okay. So that is it for our first lesson, right, on the section 1.5. So that is parametric functions. Make sure that if you missed the lesson for inverse, that you also go and watch that one. Part B will be posted after this one. All right. I'll see you later. Bye.